So since there is not even a single mention about the chips on the Gold Express wiki, I will make a video explaining them as well as putting them in a tier list. So first I'm going to explain how the chips work. So chips spawn if the killer is executing an extractor or the extractor is uploading a data cube. Chips are coming in 3 different tiers, from inferior, which is the weakest, to general, to superior, which is the strongest. The chips can spawn on random locations on the map, and if a chip has not been picked up for 3 minutes, it will despawn. If an extractor is carrying a data chip, it will be dropped after being executed. A data chip can either be picked up or be destroyed from both sides. Destroying takes way longer than picking it up, but in my opinion it is still worth to destroy some chips since they are too powerful in case the watcher or the extractors are getting them. This especially applies to the Perceptual Radar and the construction manual, since I consider them the strongest chips. So first we're gonna talk about the construction manual. It increases the building and destroying speed of digital walls by 100, 200 and 300% on the golden tier. This is in my opinion the best chip for extractors, since you can build a wall instantly in the killer's face for 2 energy charges, which is expensive, but especially against Geisha and Scarecrow, who cannot just dash through or instantly destroy walls with their power, it can be really frustrating to play against. So if you're facing that as a watcher, make sure to not swing at every open space you can, since it's really easy to interrupt that with a quick EQ tap for the extractors. I like that it is in the game, but I don't think it should be that broken mid-chase. So a nerf could be that you could not use the queue up action anymore on data walls, or that the queue up action is not also 300% more effective. And then I think it would be still in a really good spot, since setting up is a pretty important part and can decide about the outcome of a game. Honestly, I think that there's only one extractor that should not pick up this chip, and that would be Crow. Since she's not walking a lot, she is not coming by any loops that often that need to be reset, so it's not really worth picking it up. But also her could make it work in chase. But I would recommend to give this chip to a dancing girl. She could do the setup and delivery for the other extractors, since she is benefiting from walking around the map anyways. And the construction manual would make it even more efficient, so that loops are open at any point in time. But even on anyone else, this chip is just kind of overpowered. And if I play Watcher, I rather destroy it than leaving it for the extractors to give me a hard time. The construction manual is really good on the extractor side, but it is also really good on the watcher side. So it has high pickup priority as well as high destroying priority. Because if the killer is catching up to the extractor that is carrying that chip, he is likely to pick it up as well. And from that point on, he is not likely to drop it again. And it makes looping way harder, since the watcher can just block the windows by vaulting through them. Even though there's a counter strategy for this chip, I would not recommend to let the watcher get a chance to actually pick this chip up. But if you feel comfortable to not get catched, this chip is probably for you. So next up we have the energy battery. It basically just increases the maximum amount of energy charges that you can have at a time. By default, this is capped at 5 and can be overcapped by removing digital walls up to 8, but the overcap charges won't regenerate. The energy battery changes that, so that you have your cap at 8 that constantly will regenerate, but you cannot overcap it even further. Soul is the only exception. She can get up to 10 charges with the overcap. And if you know what you're doing, you can run the killer around for so long. So even though it has a lot of OP potential, this is actually okay how it is, since the same value is given to the watcher and to the extractor. The energy battery is honestly a really good chip for every character. I cannot think of a single character that would not benefit from this. I think the energy battery is in a pretty good spot, since it gives the same benefit to both Extractor and Watcher. So I think the A tier is pretty fitting here. So next up we have the virus manual. It procs every time you successfully cleanse a virus from a data warehouse or a data miner, and gives you, depending on the tier, 2 to 5 energy charges. So at first it might not seem that this chip is having a lot of use, but it actually is kind of useful, since you probably walked past some vault spots that need to be set up before you got to the machine that you're cleansing. And also the charges overcap. So it helps to give a constant safety, since the watcher can also see when the data warehouse is cleansed. So while this chip is not useful in every situation, cause not every warehouse or data miner is hacked, it gets a lot of use, especially on the superior tier. So I put it in B tier. In my opinion, it could use a little buff or a little rework, in a sense of that your cleansing speed is increased. So the virus manual works on every extractor the same, but I would not recommend to pick it up on characters that are not working on data warehouses as much. For example, Bard and Dancing Girl, since they're not cleansing that much and just more like walking around the map, setting up or stalking the killer and whatever. But even then the value would not be lost that much. But this perk is worse on the killer side, so there's not really a reason to destroy it. So next we have the Reactive Radar. After uploading a data cube, depending on the tier, the watcher will be revealed for 3 on the lowest and for 6 seconds on the highest. To be honest, I don't think this is really that helpful, since you can see your teammates through the entire map all the time, so you already always kind of know where the killer is. It's not really that helpful, but it's not entirely useless as well. The Reactive Radar has the same value on every character, since it gives the value to all of the teammates anyways. So it doesn't matter who is picking it up, as long as it is picked up. I think this chip definitely needs a buff, since it's not really that worth to pick it up or destroy it, since it's kind of like barbecue and chili from Dead by Daylight for the killer. But the thing is, most of the killers will run Scarecrow's Requiem anyways, so they don't need this chip. I don't really have an idea for a buff, but for me it's definitely C tier, since it's not completely useless, but it has not a lot of value as well. The Perceptual Radar shows the distance to the watcher, as long as the watcher is in a radius of 20, 28 and 36 meters, depending on the tier of the chip. This might sound quite interesting at first, but you already should hear the footsteps at 36 meters, so it is not really that useful. The only character that could make use of this chip is Crow, since you can learn how much distance you must have between you and the killer to get the safe teleport off. So it helps keeping her even more safe. So while it is not that good on the extractor side, it is really good on the watcher side, since it enables some kind of scratch marks, and the watcher is most likely to pick it up, since it's really strong. So there is a high priority on destroying the chip. But for the extractors, definitely D tier, if not worse. So like I said, low pickup priority, high destroy priority. So lastly we have the miner manual. It basically shows the extractors the aura of all available data miners. This perk is kinda weak, even though it helps beginners to learn the positions where data miners can spawn. In games with players with higher skill, it's unlikely to be picked up, since it does not bring a lot of value and is more or less just a time waste if you do pick it up. The nice thing about this is though that it is another perk that gives the value to the entire team, so everyone can see the auras of the data miners, which makes it a little bit better, since after uploading a cube, you need another cube, and so you always know where you can get a cube from. This saves a lot of time, but with enough map knowledge, you will know that on your own. But it's no shame to pick it up anyways. I think this perk needs definitely a buff, and like the Reactive Radar, there is not really a character that is especially benefiting from this chip. While it has value, it cannot be higher than a D tier. I wanted to also cover what the chips do on the watcher side, but since I took about 3 weeks to make this video, mostly because I was lazy, I will just upload it with only the extractor side covered. So that sums up the video. I hope this video was informative and you will keep playing this game. I cannot make any promises when the next video will come out regarding the topic of what the chips do for the watchers. See you then.